Okay, fantastic. So I think the recording has started now. So we will do the recording. We'll then pause the recording, and then we'll be open for questions a little bit later. So thank you for joining us. And I know this has been quite a long time coming, but let me reassure you that Cambridge are very slow with some of their processes as well. So just to make it really clear that this is that everyone understands what exam boards are and how that works, so that it's the JCQ who sort of supervises all of the exam boards, and that the exam boards always bid for being able to launch a specification. So we've been with the Cambridge Exam Board for quite some time, but we've already moved to Edexcel for the year groups that are now in year 10 and 11 and in year 12 as well. And we'll explain why that is. So every specification is slightly different. They just happen to all be approved. But there are very significant differences that we'll explain in a minute. So with Cambridge, one of the reasons why we have in the past been worried about the specification was that there was the odd anomaly that we didn't quite understand with the results sometimes. And then when we asked for more, it wasn't always that clear. There had been a very long-serving examiner or senior, it's not an examiner, what title am I looking for? Chief examiner. The chief examiner had been long-standing, but once he retired a few years ago, there's been different people in the role, and we haven't had that sort of consistency that we'd had before. So with this one, we were surprised across the board, though. There was no anomaly or exception. It seemed like everyone was really hard done by. And this was also a pattern that we picked up from other schools, and I'll explain that in a little bit more. So we asked for this report, and what they do is they and I explained this to you earlier, that they don't change the marks. They will not change the marks, but they will go into a little bit more depth about explaining why they gave the marks that they did. And this is one of the problems we have with this example, that they don't seem to be very reflective on things when things might not have gone quite the way they should do. So what Blanca's done a lot of work on in the meantime on just re-looking at, or looking again at, all the work that was submitted to Cambridge for their examination, and then looking at the reasons why we thought the marks would be higher than they have been. So I'll share with you the conclusion of the report now, and I'll just show you what Cambridge said.
Blanca, you muted.
Okay, here we go. Right, yeah, Blanca, we nearly, yeah, fantastic. Okay, so the conclusion is here, and I think it's useful reading it through because, to the untrained eye like yourselves and myself, unless you may be our teachers, but I'm definitely not, and so I'll be the untrained eye here. So candidates showed individual pathway resulting in personal inquiry during the investigation of chosen items. The manipulation of media was skillful throughout the mark range, and most candidates made good use of their technical abilities. So it isn't about technique that they are talking here. Many candidates, explored a diverse range of ideas, but the focus often lacked cohesion. Consequently, their intentions became lost in translation as the work progressed. Artist referencing was apparent in each submission to varying levels. If candidates had made thorough investigations and stronger connections with the works of others, their own development could have been better informed. So this seems to be what they are suggesting is their reasoning behind not giving as many marks. For many, the development of ideas and the inability to recognize the potential in the supporting work prevented fulfillment of the journey into the final outcome. The final outcomes were relevant, but the journey towards them required further planning and development. So to me, that looks like they are saying to us as a school that we worked very well in terms of the final product, and that the techniques were fine, but that the journey towards that final product was not good enough. So that's what they are saying here. Now, this is really interesting because, to me, when I looked at that, I went to Blanca and I said, so is that what it means? Is that what we're looking for here? And I have to, well, I think Blanca will explain this in a little bit more detail, but actually what we have found is that what Cambridge is saying here is very inconsistent when you look at the actual work that we have provided from our students compared to the work that they give us and say, well, this is a particular range of or a grade. So every exam board has to give exemplars, and they will say, look, this is what a C grade looks like, and this is what they do here. And then we compare that to our work, and we feel that it's very inconsistent in terms of what they say. So I know some of the comments from parents were, well, what is a school doing to adapt to having had bad grades? But actually, we very much feel that this is a very strong inconsistency from Cambridge here, having looked at that in quite a bit of detail. So Blanca, do you want to just talk us through our real piece of work, and then the piece of work that Cambridge said this is what a C grade looks like?
Yes, sorry, I'll keep my screen shared so that I can zoom into specific parts of this student's work, okay? And then I'm going to project a couple of, I'm going to project the example and samples original sent from Cambridge. So this is work that they are showing us and teaching us to understand the different levels in the exam board, so that you can kind of compare what they are telling us that a C grade is, and in this particular example, what our student obtained in her component 2. Okay, so you will see the comparison in a minute. Yeah. Sorry.
Blanca, just 1 minute. Concha, I see you just joined us. Just be aware that we are being recorded. So if you don't want to be on camera for the recording, you need to turn your camera off. But if you're happy to stay there, please leave it on. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, let me show you. I've done this specific work for, with every component 2 that we sent, and we asked Cambridge for the report in order to analyze their specific feedback and to be able to see the projects in depth. Okay, we just received them yesterday physically in school, so at least we had some photos to be able to go through them. So let me show you this example. For example, this is one of the candidates that I chose to show you, as she obtained a really low grade, which wasn't a grade that we predicted her for her project. Okay, so this is her final exam. This is an 8-hour of an 8-hour piece of work. Okay, a final piece. And then all of this is her journey, the journey that took her to that final piece of work. Let's see if I can. So it's interesting to see everything displayed in order to see the connections and the studies that student is going through in order to mount a final piece, no, for an exam. So this is one of our Hastings students' work. She unfortunately obtained a C overall in her iGCSE. Obviously, it was an unfair grade for the level not only of technique but as well of coherence for an exam component. So this is Hastings, okay, and I want to show you a example candidate response paper 2. That's the exam, and this is what Cambridge showed us. This is the samples that they use in order to let us know what a low grade is. No, so this is a C. And this is a final exam. This is an 8-hour piece, no? So here's where you can start seeing inconsistencies with regards, no, the different levels. And if we continue scrolling down, you can actually see the lack of preparation, no, from the student, from Cambridge's. Let's see if I can zoom. Lack of preparation and lack of interest in general, no? And you can see, you can compare with our students' work at Hastings, no?
Yeah, and I think, sorry, Blanca, if I can add to that, yep. You know, when I see this, I can understand now when the art department tells me, but you look, they're not being consistent. Where is the journey of this student for a C grade, and look at the journey of our student for a C grade?
Look at this. Yeah, totally.
The level of detail in the writing is just so different.
So yeah, I definitely, I mean, if we went through other grades as well and other levels, you will see the same level of inconsistencies with regards what they tell us the grades are and what our students are actually producing, which is completely unfair after they have invested all of their efforts in the development of such creative and personal projects.
Yeah, and so we feel really terrible that the students do get such a poor grade for the work that they've done. And I think, like I said, parents were feeling maybe there was something they hadn't been taught during the 2 years, or they hadn't done, or we had misinterpreted the exam board requirements. But having done this exam board for many years and having achieved very good grades, was one thing. But I did go to the art department and say, look, as a school, we need to investigate this, and the art department did that, and then came back to Miss Bryant and I with pretty much what you've seen here as well. And we feel that it's the Cambridge Exam Board that has really let us down. I will say though that we're not the only ones here. So we have 8 Cognita schools in Spain, and 6 of those are British schools as well. And many of them do Edexcel already as an exam board, but the ones who are doing iGCSE, so one in Madrid and one in Valencia, have now moved away from Cambridge as well. After the last set of exam boards results, they said, no, this is just it's just too inconsistent with what we believed the exam board was asking from us. So this is the situation we're at, but actually we did see that a little bit. We were already unhappy with the inconsistencies the year before. So our current year 11, our current year 10, and our current year 12, is it year 13 as well, Blanca?
Yes.
And year 13 are now with Edexcel. So this was the last set of, going through Cambridge with the exam board. And I think I'll maybe pass on to Blanca about explaining why we really like Edexcel. We haven't just moved from Cambridge because, to another problematic sort of exam board. On the contrary, for me, as a school leader, the big difference is that Cambridge didn't stop listening to the teachers a few years ago when they decided not to have the work marked by our teachers, but just have it sent straight away to them without seeing any opinions of the teachers. And that's quite unusual practice. And Edexcel do that differently. So they demand that the art department marks the work first, justifies their marks, and then they sort of remark the work as such. They will look at a sample, and then they will look at whether that's within range. And having done examining myself for geography coursework in the past when that used to exist, this is how it usually works, that they listen to the teachers, they look at what the teachers are saying and try and understand their marks, rather than having no idea about what the teachers feel and just having that raw piece of work. And I can't remember how many years it is now, Blanca, that Cambridge has changed this approach. It is a few years now, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 years that they decided for teachers to stop sending moderation. I think 3 or 4. Yeah. I need to revise that, but yeah. So it's an internal moderation we were doing in the department, and at least you had evidence, of teachers that were guiding creative projects for the last 2 years. So it's very, very hard when you are there in the classroom, with the students, and you are involved in the projects. You understand the steps. You understand the process and the progress of that student, and then suddenly you send this and it's marked, I don't know in how much time, in 15 minutes, another portfolio, another one, and perhaps they are not investing enough time in understanding what a student is capable of producing during 2 years. So I think they should be considering the teacher's opinion. It should be valuable. No, because we are the ones with them. Yes.
And Blanca, besides that, do you want to tell us a little bit more just about the Edexcel board in general? Because there are other changes as well that come with going to Edexcel.
Yes. So I've been in touch with other schools that have been working for longer with this exam board. In general, the feedback that I have been receiving with other heads of department has been positive. They feel that their students obtain fair marks, with regards to their efforts and their technical abilities, and they're happy with the internal moderation. That's much more work for us, but we are super happy to do it because we are the ones guiding these projects. No, we act as project directors sometimes, no, with the exam groups. So that's one of the main big changes. And then, well, they will mount a bit differently. The assessment objectives are kind of similar because they make sense in the construction of a creative project. And then what mainly changed is that we mount little exhibition, well, little depending on the number of students, and we invite no, there is an examiner coming to school. So it's the other way around. We are not sending all of the portfolios to the UK. There is a physical, an in-person examiner coming into school, no, and having moments on their own. It's not, I mean, I cannot be there in the room with them, but revising all of the students' work. That's much more personal. It gives the examiner the chance of feeling a bit the environment, no, of a school. It's already like making it a bit more personal. And as well, I think we have a fantastic sixth floor in MMA. They are going to be impressive if they do come to our school and see the potential our artistic students and photography students have. And I think that's going to have a very positive impact and effect in the results.
Thank you. And the exhibition can be a community-wide opening. Yeah? I mean, obviously it has to be ready for the examiner to come, but once it's there and it's mounted and it's ready, we can invite parents and we can have a really nice community celebration of the fantastic artwork that the students do. So to conclude, I will open to questions in a minute, but I feel, you know, Ms. Bryant and I, when we looked at this as school leaders, is that we feel that we are disappointed with Cambridge, but also we feel that the department is moving forward by having chosen an exam board with not too dissimilar assessment objectives, but a different way of marking and a different way of listening to our teachers rather than just completely ignoring them, which is what happened before.